If you feel like you're being ripped off by high prices and poor quality, stay tuned for today's video. Hi there, my name is Sarah. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, this channel is all about developing your personal style and in doing so, increasing your confidence. Welcome back to all the regular subscribers as well. It's always great to see you here. Today's video is inspired by a little shopping expedition I had during the week where I spotted this what I thought was quite a cool, unusual jacket, tried it on, and then I looked a little bit closer and I thought, oh my goodness, I can't believe they're charging any kind of money to buy this. I thought they should be paying me to put this on to get it out of the shop because the quality was just so poor. And I thought, some people are actually paying for this and it looks cheap. I'm gonna say it. Things can look cheap on closer inspection, and I'm sure none of you here want to look cheap. We want to avoid that at all costs. I'd love to know from your experiences when you walked into a shop and you thought, oh, that looks like something really nice, but then when you got closer to it, you saw XYZ, whatever it is, that made it it shows you that it was actually pretty cheap and not worth the money. Let me know your experiences down below, and in sharing this knowledge, we can all avoid making these same mistakes. So I'm going to run through the things that I spotted in this jacket in particular, but also other things that you may wish to look out for when it comes to buying a garment and making sure that you're actually paying for what it's worth, whether that's high end or on the lower end of the scale. At least you can have a good measure of where your money's going and whether it's actually worth it. So the first thing you can look for when thinking about if a garment is worth its money is pattern matching. Now, this can be more obvious in some cases than in others. In this jacket, it was very obvious. It was in an obvious location, right on the side of the jacket. The lines didn't match up. When the pattern's a little bit more abstract, you can get away with it a little bit more. But as soon as you put a stripe in there that's, very clear, the line is just so obvious, especially if it's in an obvious place. If they're not aligned, it was a rush job. It was careless, and already it begins to devalue the item. So beware of pattern matching, especially in obvious places with clear identifiable patterns, like a line, for example. The next thing I noticed on this jacket was the placement of the pockets. Now, this may go unnoticed by some people, and to be fair, it's not the most obvious thing, but I just noticed that the pocket, it was quite close to the hem of the jacket, and it felt like the pocket was almost going to fall off. It was just a little bit out of place. Now, as I said, this is a minor detail that may go unnoticed for many people, and that's okay. But it just felt like it was supposed to be a little bit higher up. The pocket placement was not good. So these are the kind of things you want to look out for. As well as that, if the pockets are level with each other, you definitely want to make sure of that they're not too high and not too low on the garment. Next up, you want to open up that jacket or whatever it is you're looking at. Take a look on the inside and the finishing of the seams. Now, something that's made well is often lined. So there is a separate piece of material that has been put onto the outside part, and the garment itself has been what they call in the sewing industry bagged out. So it was sewn inside out, left with a small opening, pulled through so that all the seams are hidden. It's an extra step in the manufacturing process, and it's one that many of them will leave out because it's quicker. It produces a garment that's wearable but not necessarily finished well. So they turn it out and hope for the best and hope that people won't notice or won't care. Now, not every garment is lined, and that's okay as well. When you can see a seam, you just want to make sure that it is finished neatly, that there's no fraying or it's uneven or that the seams are coming apart in any way. You really want to make sure that those seams are finished completely and neatly in order for it to warrant any kind of payment for the garment. By the way, if you're liking this video and learning something new, please give it the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you'd like to support this channel to keep it going, then you can do so by giving some super thanks, and I would be super grateful. Now let's keep going. Now, speaking specifically again about this item of clothing that I tried on, when I turned the jacket around, there was quite an obvious print on it, and the print was upside down. There was like a tiger and monkeys and trees and stuff, and the print was actually upside down. And it was just smack bang in the middle of the back. So there was no avoiding it. There was no getting around this. It was careless production. So to me, it really wasn't worth it. On my last ditch effort to find some value in this item, I looked for the fabric composition, and I had taken what I thought was 2 different sizes into the changing room to try on. So when I looked at the fabric composition label, one jacket didn't even have a fabric composition label. So, and one did. So that in itself, not having a fabric composition label, is a red flag. Do not go near something that doesn't even tell you what kind of fabric it is. And then of course, when I looked at the fabric composition, it was made of cheap materials, generally synthetic materials, polyester, which is, the whole process of its production is not environmentally friendly, and it's a cheap way of producing things. So not great all in all. Those are just things that made me think, okay, if they're actually selling this garment, and I think it was probably about, I don't know, €60, which might be $80, maybe about £55. Even at that price, you know, everybody's budget is different, but even to ask for money for that garment, I found was insulting. It was actually insulting. I was offended by somebody asking me to pay money for that item. So I didn't want anybody else to experience the same kind of thing. We shouldn't have those items in the wardrobe. With such careless attention to detail, that item would have, I'm sure, fallen apart sooner or later if it went through the wash, or the seams would just come undone. I could tell that it wasn't going to last very long. It was the epitome of fast fashion. Other things that you may wish to look out for is fabric that has been stretched and it appears warped. Now, we often see this around necklines, particularly with fabrics that have a stretch in them. They are difficult to handle, difficult to sew compared to cottons. And so they get stretched pretty easily, and they can make things like necklines look very untidy, hemlines look untidy. So if they're looking a little bit warped or anything, leave it back. You don't need that on your body. It doesn't look expensive. Going back to fabric composition labels, always take a look at the fabric composition. So I mentioned before that synthetic fabrics are cheaper. They are durable, but they're cheaper to make, and therefore can increase the margins of profit that the company makes when they increase the sale price. But just know that a garment that is 100% polyester, for example, is going to be of less value than 100% silk or 100% wool or something like that. Now, another thing to watch out for, and I've seen this all too many times, is when a garment is being sold as, let's say, cashmere, for example. I've seen it countless times. Cashmere jumper. Okay, great. It's nice to have a bit of cashmere in the wardrobe. However, when you go and look at the fabric composition label, it can be 5% cashmere and the rest is made up of some kind of poly blends. So there is nothing there to say that this is only a 5% cashmere jumper or sweatshirt. People can say this is a cashmere item and therefore it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% cashmere, and they can call it what they want. Beware of the composition of your garments. If there's only 5% cashmere, it's barely worth talking about, but they get away with calling it cashmere. This is something like, I suppose, the equivalent of like greenwashing. We might call this luxury washing. I think maybe that's a good term to use. Beware luxury washing. Other things to look out for are finishing touches like buttons, buttonholes, and zippers. All of these things want to be finished smoothly. We want to see that a buttonhole is durable because there's a lot of tension on it there. There can be a lot of pulling. We don't want it to come undone. So make sure that the buttonhole is nice and cleanly finished with a strong stitch around the outside of it. With zippers, you want to run that zipper up and down and just make sure that it's running smoothly. Anything that catches or comes away, definitely not worth the money. So those are just a few things, and there's many more that we could talk about, but I just had to get that off my chest after my experience during the week. I was really shocked and insulted I've got to say. And I don't want anybody else experiencing this and losing out on their hard-earned money when they're not getting the quality in return. That's it for today's video. I do hope you enjoyed it and learned something new from it. And I will see you again next week. Take care. Bye bye.